Hey guys, in this video I did a podcast with Gabriel. If you guys don't know, Gabriel is the founder of Rocket.Chat, and Rocket.Chat is one of the biggest open source organizations that receives a lot of applications for GSoC every single year. In this video, we touched upon a lot of aspects such as how he came up with the idea of GSoC, why and when he decided to open source it, how you can actually start contributing to Rocket.Chat right after this podcast. Also, we talked about how you can focus more on journey as a reward rather than making it all about the outcome. And at the end of the podcast, he also shared a tip that he received from his mentor Sid, who is actually the founder of GitLab, which actually changed his life and my life as well. Go ahead, enjoy the podcast. So, hey Gabriel, first of all,
Hello.
thank you so much for taking out your time to do this. Highly appreciate.
My pleasure.
Okay, so first of all, I would like you to give your intro to our audience, and I want you to give kind of a comprehensive intro, like where were you born, and what were you doing before Rocket.Chat, how did you start Rocket.Chat, and everything. Just want to know everything.
Okay, that can be a bit of a long story, but I'll try
It's fine.
to condense. So my name is Gabriel Engel. I'm CEO, founder of Rocket.Chat. Born in Brazil, south of Brazil, a place called Porto Alegre. I started my life with computers very early. My father had a company that was like a software development company, and since I was a kid, I used to go there to play in the office, became friends with the developers, and then end up learning how to code and just by like curiosity. So one interesting fact about my experience is that by the time I needed to decide what to do for my university, I already knew how to code. So I thought that, okay, maybe if I build a cool website or a cool software or something, I'm going to have to create a company around it. So rather than going to computer science at university, I went to study business administration. So I have my degree. It's not in computer science; it's in business administration. But technology is something that I always loved and I always learned by myself. I also then at the university I started my first business with some classmates. We are building websites for like larger companies and some large companies, some small companies. We didn't have much money, so we were using open source, like using MySQL, PHP, Linux, everything we had to build like with zero investment. So obviously we're using everything that we could put our hands on for free. And in one point, we developed an editor, in-browser editor, one of those what you see is what you get text editor in the browser. It was called IntelliEditor. And I thought it was quite cool. We were using a lot of open source. We decided to give back to the community. So I published the code base on SourceForge. That was maybe tells a little bit about my age. I'm 42. So there was no GitHub at that time. It was before Git even existed. Everything was Subversion, control. And it was a very humbling experience because I just published thinking that I was going to give the code like something cool back to the community with no intentions of like any commercial intentions. And then suddenly it was very cool. A lot of people start downloading, translating many languages, helping a little bit of the code. But what happened is we started to receive business inquiries from companies from Silicon Valley. So there was this guy, John McClure, called us one day. He's, look, I've seen what you guys are doing, JavaScript, really cool stuff you're building in the browser. I want to hire your company to build this system for me, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly it was, wow, like we are this tiny company on a room here in the south of Brazil. And then we publish something cool on open source and suddenly we have customers in different countries. So that was my first experience with open source. The first time they realized open source is not just a one-way street, it's not just charity, it's not just giving away, but it can be a way to be known, to get noticed, for people to see your work. So I always had this dream of trying to build something open source again. So fast forward this was my university years. So that was fast forward maybe like 20 years. I sold that company. I went to live in London. I started work for some large corporations, work for all sizes of organizations, some tiny startups to some a large company like Vodafone for 2 years. I could see how those giant organizations work, and it was very frustrating because I would spend most of my time doing presentations and trying to pitch my ideas to managers and directors, and very low time on actually doing anything, and most of the time just trying to convince people that we are doing the right thing. So I end up saying, okay, no, I need to start my own business again, and went back to open source. So I want to start something using Node.js. I want to start something using all the new cool toys. So Node.js is like new at the time. MongoDB, all this stuff was kind of new thing. And I started building found some developers online. I thought, look, if I want to build a distributed company, because I was still living in London, I wanted to hire people around the world. So let's hire people who are active in the forums, active in working distributed already. So that's how I ended up meeting the Rodrigo, who is our CTO today at Rocket.Chat, because I went to see a forum for Node.js development, and he was one of the most like active guys, helping the others, creating the community. And then I was like, well, this is the kind of guy that I want to work with. I don't want to have a company. I want the kind of person that will like teach the others and create this environment of people helping each other. And that's the right culture I want to build. So I reached out to him, and I made an offer. He started to work with me, and hired Marcelo, Diego, some of the guys that are with us to this day. And and we ended up building a CRM. Then from the CRM, all our users of the CRM wanted to use a communication tool. We decided to create Rocket.Chat, like a chat system. Then we later called Rocket.Chat. And that's how Rocket.Chat was born. Well, like from inside this other organization. And then we ended up splitting and turning Rocket.Chat into its own thing. The community that we created was so engaging, so awesome that we start hiring people from the community. So that's how we hired like Aaron, that is with us this day, Singly. So we end up building this core of the company coming from this distributed organization, welcoming people, hardworking people, people who are autonomous and like to work independently. So I think that's how Rocket.Chat was born. And once we start to get traction as an open source project, we start receive a lot of offers for investment, and we end up getting a seed investment from NEA, created a company, and then the rest is the next chapter. But that's how we all started.
That's awesome. I love the journey. There is so much to learn from. For example, I love that example you talk about Rodrigo. Like he was very active in the forums and communities. So if guys are really active in forums and community, you can get a chance to maybe
this was like in 20. You're talking about 2015. Sorry, that was 2011, right? So that was before it was. I think now most organizations, they're gonna look for people who are active in GitHub, people who are active on issue trackers. They are contributing code. They see, okay, this is the kind of person that has initiative, because nobody's paying them to do it. Like they are participating in projects. Sometimes like projects there are with high level of required of technical skills that are impactful. So it's a very good way to get noticed. Maybe I was very early in doing that in 2010 and 2011, but definitely now it's even more true.
Yeah. I've seen most of the people getting into open source. Rocket.Chat is actually my first organization that I started contributing to. So I want to go a little deeper on how did you came up with the idea of Rocket.Chat actually. So could you like point out some problems that you were seeing in your organization, or it was just one day you woke up and like I want to build Rocket.Chat. So I just want to go a little deeper, like how did you came up with the idea of Rocket.Chat, and why and when you decided to open source it?
Okay. So yeah, that's two very good points, and they kind of come together. First, we built that CRM system, Connectee. And then we start having a few. That was closed source. That was the way we were planning to make money, was out of the CRM. And all the customers who were using our CRM, they started to ask us, like, "Oh, I really need a way. You guys created my CRM, you created my website. So, but I need a way to communicate with my customers, the people who are visiting my website, people who are visiting my Facebook page. How can I chat with them in real time? Also, at the same time, I need to talk to my colleague, to my boss, because maybe they ask something for me about a product and I don't know. I need to talk to my colleague. I don't want to keep jumping from one tool to another, right? So imagine if I'm talking using one tool, then I want to talk to my colleague. I have to jump on another tool, copy the questions, and then whatever he says, I copy to the other one, and maybe I cannot invite him from the conversation. So we were like, okay, if I want to be able to talk to people outside the organization and people inside the organization together, and also how can I make sure that I have all the conversation history belongs to the company? So if they want to attach that to the lead inside the CRM or to the ticket into my ticketing system or whatever, like how can I make sure that all the history of the communication is available for me to use it wherever I want to? So with those things, that is the problem we're trying to solve, because all the tools that we've seen out there was either Slack, which was very good for me to talk to my team, or Zopping at the time. Now later was purchased by Zendesk and became Zendesk Chat. But it was saying like Zopping is our live chat, or some of those is how I talk to my customer, but they were very different systems. And then we thought, okay, we want to make something that glued the two things together, because my thinking was, when I'm emailing someone, I don't have a different email system to talk to different people, right? Imagine like if you on Hotmail, you need a Hotmail account, and then if you want to send an email to someone in Gmail, you have to create a Gmail account, and with chat, it is like that, right? If I want to talk to people in Telegram, then I need a Telegram account. If I want to talk to people in WhatsApp, I need a WhatsApp account. And then my vision was like, why can we not build something open source that can connect to everything? And that's the reason we make it open source, because wow, only open source tools can be so complete, because one company alone with limited resources and developers will never be able to build all those bridges, right? You could be very limited in what we can do. But if we open source and have a community that help us build those bridges, then we might have a shot in building something that is open, that connects to everything. And so the idea of making it open source it was because our team was limited. We wanted to build something very powerful and big with little people. So we said, look, we need the community to help us out. Also, once we start scaling the product, the first version that we built for our customers, we could see that there was a lot of technical challenges that we wanted people to help us. And then we could either pay very expensive consultants or guys to help, or we thought like, okay, if you open source, we can ask the community to have a look, and from 1,000 people, maybe someone we identify. So it was a very efficient way to make something with a new level of like technical skills than if you're trying to build something by yourself. So it was good for being able to do innovation, to be able to do open protocol, to connect more things, to fix problems. So open source was really the best way to build something great, and to keep always ahead of the competition. So and in the beginning, we didn't even think about making money out of Rocket.Chat. Rocket.Chat was going to be just this cool idea that will attract people to the CRM, but it became so much larger than the CRM that we end up splitting and turning it on its own company.
Yeah. So that's an awesome story, Gabriel. Thanks for sharing. There are so many takeaways to take from it. Yeah. So a lot of people who are watching us right now can actually be interested in contributing to Rocket.Chat. Okay. So I've heard this every year. Rocket.Chat usually receives a lot of projects, and a lot of people are interested in actually contributing to Rocket.Chat. So do you got any advice on how they can just start contributing to Rocket.Chat right after this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the two best places to go, every year we do have our Google Summer of Code that you participate, but that's a specific time frame, which is awesome.
Yeah.
If you want to participate, just Google it and then register, see when is the next one's coming. I don't know when people are looking this podcast, maybe in the future, maybe now. So better just to Google whatever year you are and see when is the next one starting. And I highly recommend in a way to participate, not just in Rocket.Chat, but many open source projects. But in Rocket.Chat itself, if you go on our documentation to tell you like how to participate, join the open server at open.rocket.chat. You can find the community channels where a lot of our team members and community members are there, going to give you some advice. And our repository on GitHub, if you go there, there is at least two main projects. One is the server and web client, and the other one is the mobile app. They are all built using JavaScript, so it's React Native on the we use for the mobile client. We have the the desktop client as well, which is built in Electron, which is also JavaScript. We use TypeScript, but it's all like JavaScript, I guess, in the end of the day. So any of those three projects, you can see a lot of issues being reported. Sometimes we flag them for a first contributor, like someone who is starting. Maybe fix a bug, fix something. You go there, talk to our team on the open server, offer to help on those issues. People gonna give you some advice on how to do it, maybe what strategy to approach, and then just start trying to code, open a pull request, submit there, talk about it, and then you're gonna start seeing that we have a very welcoming community. And it's a very nice initial experience with open source and distributed projects.
Yeah, even I would like to take a moment here and share even my journey of Rocket.Chat. So how did I started contributing to Rocket.Chat? So it was like I obviously got motivated out of GSoC because I wanted to participate in GSoC. So I started contributing to Rocket.Chat, and it was a really welcoming community. For example, I was working on this project Rocket.Chat Flutter SDK this year. And this was this amazing community. I just asked my doubt over there. Singly was really helpful in doing this, and even that project was not get over selected for GSoC because Google just scraped it out of a reason. So I would like to ask you a question here on GSoC. Like most often people are interested in contributing to open source out of some competitions. Like initially I was I started to contribute to open source out of some competition, but later I realized it's the best way to actually increase your skills or enhance your skills, get to know community, make your network connections around the world. So you got any advice like how tackle this competition thing?
Yeah, I think embracing the open source like culture of being humble, help others at the same time, not just wanting help, but obviously if people see that you are also helping others, they're more likely to help you than someone that is just asking things all the time. So really get engaged and thinking it as a two-way street, that you're going to receive help, but also that you're going to give help. That's the best way to end up making friends, making connection, extending your network. Sometimes you get inspired and create some meetups on your region where like going to local meetups, it's really cool. That was one of the ways I got engaged with open source myself. Again, when I was in London, was I looked for a lot of open source meetups. So I went to the first MongoDB meetups in Europe. I was actually the very first person to get to the MongoDB meetups. It was just when they created the meetups. On the beginning, nobody knew what MongoDB was. It was a very, very early days. So they made a meetup in London, and I was the only person to show up to the first meetup. So it was just me and the MongoDB, like two of their engineers in London. Yeah. And they were like even giving free food, free beer, like free coffee. And then I would spend like an hour or two chatting with them. And I was the only person only person in the community. So communities sometimes they start very small. Now MongoDB is this multi-billion-dollar giant project, but the first meetup in Europe, it was just me, right? So sometimes organizing meetups, looking for meetups, participate. I think once you start developing the sense of belonging, you start getting excited about contributing and start making connections. That's the key of open source, is this feeling of belonging and building stuff that with people that you like and have share some common interests.
I totally agree. Not just make it all about you, but actually enjoying the journey along the process. So now I wanna shift our gears a little towards productivity. So you have created a successful open source organization now, but when you were starting, I'm sure that there are a lot of things that you had to manage and your day-to-day tasks. So I just wanted to know, like, how do you manage? What are the tools and techniques you use to manage your tasks and time efficiently and be more productive?
So some stuff, I'm not a perfect person for organization by any any stretch. Like I've sometimes have too many things going up in my mind. I'm a very creative person. I'm one of those people who dream a lot. So routines for me are very, very hard. So few things that work, I guess, always keeping a to-do list that you can easily change and prioritize, and trying to go back to the items that are on the top of your list, and making sure that you will not just have on the top of the list, but sometimes you look in your calendar and you block time that you're going to be working on that thing, because just being on the top of the list sometimes doesn't mean you're going to allocate time to do it. So getting those things on top of the list, allocating time, and then blocking time to do those things and working on them when you have specified time helps a lot. And I'm not sure if you read the book.
That's the essence of it.
Have you ever read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek?
I've
for sure. It's like, obviously it's a bit like too much in a lot of respects, but one of the things there is that law that I think is very true, that usually tasks will take as much time as you give them, allocate for them to do. So exactly. So sometimes allocating too much time for a task, it just means that you're gonna make it longer and than necessary. So
Parkinson's law.
Yeah, so it's sometimes like you realize, that's going to be so hard, and then when you see what, sometimes you postpone and postpone and then when you have only half an hour to do it, you're able to do it in half an hour because you only have half an hour to do it. So learning with that, and sometimes trying to allocate, look at things and not be scared of the size of that effort, because you know that if you really need to do it, you can make it shorter, and then try to keep small chunks of time to concentrate in those things on your priority lists.
Totally agree. Like I think the essence is to just have a task and keep your calendar blocked and just start with doing it.
And having some blocks on the calendar that no one can schedule meetings with you and stuff. So sometimes I have one day which is not working. Well, it works to an extent, but sometimes I end up having to open that day because there are more meetings that need to happen on that week that I have time for. But usually I try to keep one day of the week that is meeting free for me to focus on my stuff, to have a different mindset, because otherwise you just jump from one meeting to another. Another thing is I try to keep my meetings to 25 minutes or 50 minutes. So I never do let them people get the whole hour. I ask them on my calendar, I have some settings that you can say that always need to give a gap of 10 minutes between meetings. Because otherwise you get from one meeting to another and you haven't even been able to look at your email or brief a little bit or go have a coffee. So then it becomes very exhausting on the end of the day if you keep jumping from one to another to another to another. So building a buffer between meetings of at least 5 to 10 minutes also helps a lot when you have that configured. So I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah, awesome advice. Interval is really important. I totally agree.
Other stuff for productivity. I love audiobooks. I feel like I don't have that much time to read sometimes. So having audiobooks I started when I was in London as well, because I used to walk and get the tube to the train to work. So having an audiobook while I was walking the streets and going to the escalator.
Would you like to share your 3 books like you are really interested in or you like seem hooked to?
Yeah.
It can be.
I have like some very like different ones for different things. There's one book that I really liked that was one of the maybe life-changing books. It's called The Happiness Hypothesis. And it's a guy. I think he's a neuroscientist, an evolutionary a psychologist as well. And then he looks into all the ancient cultures, like from like India, China, like Europe, and tries to find common wisdom among them. What are the things that all those cultures agreed upon? What is a good life, and how to build a healthy and fulfilling life? And looks at those commonalities from scientific perspective, from an evolutionary perspective. Why maybe independently these different cultures end up arriving to some of similar conclusions, and looking into our DNA and the evolution of our species. Why would that work? And I think it opened my mind for a lot of things on how to look at the human brain and how we work as a species, and how some things we are built to be never satisfied with, because like let's say our ancestors who were satisfied, maybe they stopped, and the other ones they were like they always wanted more and wanting to conquer and expand are the ones that end up leaving more descendants, and here we are, like we are the descendants of the unsatisfied ancestors. The other ones so I think it's almost like you step away and you look from as a scientist, you look back to humanity and you understand how it works and how you work. Obviously, there's another one that for me comes after the Homo sapiens, talks a little bit about this as well. But it's following kind of a similar line.
Similar pattern.
Yeah, I like Homo Deus. That is a sequence. I think Homo sapiens was even better, but
it's the best trilogy by Noel Harari.
Yeah, it's really 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 good. Obviously, Thinking Fast and Slow. I love books that explain how the mind works. The Black Swan. I loved the way it explain the version of some of the crises we had, or economic crisis we had historically, because our brain is wired to think about things in a linear progression, and the real world there's a lot of things that happen on a logarithmic progression, then our brain cannot handle it, because historically most of the things in nature are linear progression, right? They evolve over time. But in the modern world, like an economic world, and so you have this, and how we are not our notion of statistics, of our recurrence of events, and how we judge the likelihood of some outcomes is completely misguided, because it has a very linear way to work, and being able to identify things that are not linear is a big opportunity for business, for deal with uncertainty. So it's, I don't know, I thought it was very, very, very cool. I don't know. I have a big list. I can give tons of books that.
But I love this idea, thinking non-linearly, because we are like kind of.
So on entrepreneurship, I like there's a book called Built to Last, which talks about the guy looks at companies that were transcendent the founders, and some of them are like companies that have more than 100 years. Interesting enough, built to last, and the Black Swan. The Black Swan guy has a lot of criticism of that book. And I think it's really cool because you read one and it's like, okay, well, I get it. And then you read the other guy, it's like, huh. And then you end up creating your own perspective about both because you can see some very, very intelligent arguments, different perspectives about the same problem. He tells a lot about regression to the mean from the companies that were analyzed on the first one. But I love this. I love reading competing arguments. Yeah. So you end up like trying to create your own perspective from those two.
Even that's how I think we evolve as well. Like that's how science evolve as well. Yeah. Most of the scientists they will argue, give some constructive arguments, and that's how a theory even evolves in science. And one for entrepreneurs, if there's one book that I think is really good for entrepreneurs, is the hard thing about the hard things. Mainly because it's almost, for me, it's almost like a comedy. Like the book is it's almost funny because it's so like, when it's dark comedy, when things, you think, okay, now he's like, on the bottom of the, nothing possibly can go worse. And then something happened that makes him go even further down. I was like, oh my God, how did he not give up? Like, how come the guy didn't give up? Like, and every time he finds a solution, something happens and breaks everything that he builds for. Is like, oh my God! Like, and so, in a way, it's almost like a cautionary tale for people thinking about entrepreneurship. If they read that book and think, "Yeah, I'm ready for that. I can deal with that," and then, so go try to start your own thing. But those things happen more often than not. Companies are a succession of things that go wrong and then you fix and then go wrong and you fix and go wrong and fix. Yeah. And then I have a mentor that used to say, like, being an entrepreneur you must love solving problems because you have a different problem every day, and you must be a problem solving loving person. Yeah, totally. It's like Ben also said in his book, and YC also said this, that most often the founders who actually build a good company are actually those who never give up.
He said, like, mediocre founders, they will say, the company was good because mediocre companies, the founders say, I had that vision, or I was good, I did this, it was all about themselves. But the true large companies, they always said, well, I just didn't give up. Like, every time there was a problem, rather than throwing the towel, I end up like not giving up and working until. So that's one of the reasons. One of my favorite saying, and it's
exactly. This reminded me of that. You told me, and I was about to ask you that you need to say it.
Again. It's because some people ask me sometimes if I have a saying or a mantra or something, and then I have one that I say, but people sometimes think that is wishful thinking. Is that everything ends up okay? If it's not okay, it's because you're not on the end yet. Like, if it's not good, if it didn't work out, it's because you have not reached the end yet. And you can look at it as a wishful thinking, or you're just being wishful thinking. But if you truly believe on it, then maybe it puts you on the right mindset to never give up and continue to work. Even maybe if you die trying, at least you never conceded and you never given up trying. And one very, very important distinction to make, I think trying the same thing many times and like Einstein said, trying the same thing twice and expecting a different outcome, that's stupid. So that's the wrong. That's the wrong.
That's stupid.
Attitude of having being tenacious or persistent. But people who truly learn when things go wrong, you have to be humble and then learn if go wrong, and then not give up means try a different thing to achieve that purpose, right? Not being stubborn and keep trying the same thing and think, okay, eventually this will work. No, you fail, you're humbled by it, you learn, you evaluate, and you try something different, but you keep trying a different thing at a time and learning every time. Then eventually everything will be okay. So that's then the prophecy becomes true that at the end things things get turn out to be great if you never give up and if you learn if you're with every time you fall.
And as you said, if it didn't turn out well, then at least you ended up trying.
Yeah, well,
Right?
it's a better life, I guess. Like always trying to, and that's the book. What I said, like the guy said on the book, anyone that thinks that he gets to a point and they feel they have accomplished and that's it, then they're done. Usually, that's people who die early and they're like they're going to be miserable and feel. If they had one very very like important mission and once they achieve it, they're never going to be fulfilled by it. Like people that doesn't last very long. So you need to be, unfortunately, we are wired to keep wanting more. So you're always going to want something extra. And if you don't make the journey worthwhile, if you don't fall in love with the process of getting there, you're going to get disappointed every time you get there, because once you get there, it's just like, okay, that was done. And it's usually it's not as cool as you expected or your expectation. I'm not going to be that. So you need to love the journey and need to love the development and the growing up that is involved on the journey. I think that's one of the key components of happiness.
Yeah, totally. Even I would say I have seen interviews of founders who have actually taken an exit from their company, and most of our people think that this is their, the utopia moment in life. But actually, they are like, something is missing, and I don't like this anymore, or something like that. So it's a constant. I think this is how you get wired when you get into entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah. I was in Harvard 2 weeks ago, and then we were doing some of those case studies, and then we met. One of the case studies was about a company called Blue Mercury. It's a chain of cosmetics in US, and then the founders of Blue Mercury were there to discuss discuss it with us. And then he was saying he sold the company for $250 million like years ago for Macy's. Yeah. And everybody's like, okay, now you must be like retired, got the helmet and stuff like. It's like, no, I love building that company. I love like getting the people and stuff. And so as soon as he got the money and like he worked for Macy's for a while, he was now to the next thing. Like he was, and then everybody was saying, okay, but isn't $250 million enough? And then he was like, it's not about the money being enough. It's about like, it's the thing that I like doing is finding those challenges and getting cool people to work with and solving those problems and getting excited. And so he said it's probably by the time he exits this new company, it's going to be maybe $1 billion. And he said like, it's not going to be enough because I love doing that. So he's not in the having an X amount of money. It's not what he's working for. It's the process, right? By the way, I loved that part where you talked about make your journey the way that you actually enjoy it. Yeah. And that's remind me of a quote that actually changed my life when I talked to you last time. Oh wow! Okay. That was by the one from Sitsi from GitLab.
Yeah, exactly. And I want you to recall it again.
Yeah. So would love it. In one point, we almost sold the company to GitLab, and in the process, I wanted to get to know Sitsi from GitLab, and we spent some time together. I was sleeping in his sofa bed in his apartment in San Francisco. And then we were trying to get to know each other. And one of the ways he was asking, like, okay, what is your decision-making framework? How do you evaluate your decision and decide what to do next in your life? What do you maximize for? And then I didn't have a clear answer. I was maybe humble a few things on how I was trying to about my values and stuff. And then he was saying that he said he has a very clear rule. Well, he said he always maximize for interestingness, meaning he always look at the decision, and imagine his life one way or the other, and think about each one would be more interesting. Which side, his life would be more interesting. And that sometimes you may mean, okay, I have an exit, I have an offer for $100 million. My life would be interesting if I have that money, I can go to the next new thing. So decision is very, but at the same time, depending on the offer or the money, you think, well, that amount of money is not going to make my life more interesting. And he was explaining that he once got an offer to set lab early on, and then he was like pondering, and then he was like, well, if I sell GitLab now for this amount of money, I'm going to have to get in another project, find something that excites me, get a team again. Blah. So maybe I'm going to spend the same amount of money just to get to the same place where I am, while getting GitLab to the next phase and going from $10 million to $100 million. It's a lot more exciting than exiting right now.
Yeah.
So he decided that his life was going to be more interesting doing so. Funny enough, that was for the same reason why I didn't sell the company to him, is because I thought that creating Rocket.Chat was going to be more interesting than selling it. Like the journey of making Rocket.Chat a global company, having a team, building a culture, having to evolve as a person to be the CEO, and there's a lot of self-reflection and self-development to be able to be a good CEO. And so, like, that's a very interesting journey that I want to have. So I think my life would be more interesting. Maybe not financially. Maybe financially will be better off if I had sold the company. But definitely the journey of building the company was one of the most interesting stuff that I ever done. And I don't think there's enough money that could buy that journey. So maximizing for interestingness, I think, is a very good measure to measure your decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When I heard this first from you, actually I was kind of baffled. Like, you can make your journey like that, it kind of relieves you. You have less mental pressure. You're enjoying the journey, what you are here for, and it kind of changed my life. I hope this changed your life too.
It did change my life as well. So like I said, I'm just going through me, like came from Sydney, and I tell this to a lot of people because it meant a lot to me. And I think some of the hidden meaning behind this is also, if you want to build something great, it's so hard, then you need to be excited about it. So if you decide that you're going just for the money, obviously there are some people, their drive, but just the money thing, and maybe they will succeed or I don't know, thrive on pursuing just the money. But I think for most people, for me to get up in the morning and be excited about my day, it's not just about the money that I'm going to make. It's about, like, what are the people they're going to be working with? Are we building something that are going to be used for hundreds or millions of people? Are we impacting? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff can I work on a project using cool technologies and building? So I need to be excited. And if I am excited, I'm going to give my best. And if I give my best, that's the requirement for building something great. So it's almost like if you maximize for interestingness, you're also maximizing your efficiency, your throughput, your excitement, and then you end up maximizing a lot of all the other good stuff that comes with true dedication and true passion. So I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at the end of the day, that working something you're interested brings a lot of other stuff along the way.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's a good point where we can,
conclude.
end
Yeah, it was a
things.
good ending.
But before ending, I would like you to ask one question on a last note. So a lot of people watching this podcast right now are actually learning to code, and maybe one day they wish to create their own thing, their own project, and maybe create something big out of it, a startup, let's say. So do you got any advice for them, or anything that you want to share?
I think the best startups and best project ideas that I know were usually people solving a problem that they experience, that they are passionate about, and they're using their own invention or creation to solve that problem, and then they realize that problem other people have the same problem, so I'll share the solution, and that's how. So I guess the advice is work on something, on a problem that you're passionate about solving, that, and then a lot of other things will come naturally. And when you are your own customer, so Rocket.Chat was like this. We needed that tool. And then we started building the community, we needed a Rocket.Chat to organize our own company, our own community. So we started using Rocket.Chat. So everything Rocket.Chat, when we use our product to do it, that's something that we need and we use our product. That's the best areas of the product because we feel the pain, we fix the product, the problem that we are experiencing. The team knows the issues, they know so everything becomes easier when you are solving your own pains and when those pains are shared by a lot of people. So yeah, think about the stuff that annoys you and work on something that you're passionate about making better.
Totally agree. So again, thank you so much, Gabriel, for doing this. Highly appreciate.
My pleasure.
And I think I could have extracted a lot of information out of your brain. And I hope we do this again. And again, thanks a lot for.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here. And thanks again.
So thank you so much for watching the podcast. If you guys want me to make more such podcasts with founders of organizations, then let me know in the comments, because when I started coding it was difficult, but the stories of these founders actually helped me being consistent. So again, thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, come on guys, please subscribe. Bye bye.